You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
For the community, by the community.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful day outside, and here we are with Joe Voelker, Director of the President's College of the University of Hartford. Joe, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Bob.
And
Great.
we're going to talk, just between us guys, we're going to talk about the President's College and where we've been and where we're going and, you know, all that happy stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to ask you to begin the conversation.
Sounds good, Bob. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's May. The year is winding down. In fact, we've actually reached the happy situation where there are 2 courses left to run at the President's College, and then we will close up for the summer. I'm going to mention them, even though some people will catch this broadcast late to be able to sign up, and
Okay.
I think some won't. But Willie Waters, Maestro Willie Waters, formerly of the Connecticut Opera, is going to do a class on Porgy and Bess, the history of the musical, or the opera, as it's more properly called.
And when is that going to be presented?
Mid-May to early June. And our newsletter is available for the details simply by looking at this website, and it's right there and easy to find on the newly designed President's College website.
Or you can phone. You can use that old archaic method of communication, the telephone, and you can call President's College at 860-768-4495. And operators are waiting for your, and they will give you the opportunity to get the newsletter on a monthly basis through the mail.
That's right. And I have just signed up, Bob, for the other course, which is Brian Summers of Central Connecticut State University, doing a course called The Geography of Wine.
The geography of
Wine.
wine. Oh, really?
And he's going to feature the Rhone Valley in France this time.
Yeah.
And he likes to talk about the civilization around the wine, the soil, the acidity, the weather, the climate, all of the aspects besides just the grape that go into a great bottle of wine.
And what's his background that he is so conversant in this field?
He's a geographer. He's a professor of geography.
Okay.
And when he was a young man, he went to France and drank only cheap beer, and then realized later that he must have missed something. So at that point, he went back and became a student of wine and geography. And he's written a book called The Geography of Wine.
Really? Do you know that there are quite a number of vineyards here in Connecticut?
Yes. I haven't tasted many of them, though.
Well, and they offer, tours and tasting and all that. We went to one up in Litchfield County by Lake Warramog.
Sure.
And it was fascinating. You can, as you say, analyze the soil and taste the differences. It's really a very fascinating subject.
I always wish I had a better nose. I really admire or am envious of people who have these wonderful noses. And
That taste the bouquet.
Exactly.
You know the bouquet.
The bouquet.
Yeah.
But that's all that's left for the President's College this spring. It's been a really great year, and I thought that I'd point out, and we could reminisce a little about some of the highlights of this year at the President's College. You'll remember the 25th anniversary celebration and the retirement
wonderful.
of Humphrey Tonkin. That was a great afternoon.
It really, really was. It was a pleasure listening to all the testimonials and eating all that food and having all that wine, now that we're talking about wine, but it was a lovely, lovely event.
And I thought that it was so appropriate that Humphrey, because we are an intellectual operation in the President's College, invited 3 of his scholarly friends to reflect on the thoughtful life. It was just lovely. And then a little later in the year, Michelle Troy, one of our English professors, led the Man Booker Prize group. And these brave souls read the 6 finalist novels for the Man Booker Prize.
My hat's off to them.
And then each one embodied one of the books and spoke about it.
Really?
And then we gathered the night that the prize was awarded, and everybody voted. So it was a wonderful feast of fiction, if you will.
Wow.
But that was another memorable, fun night. Actually, a little before that was Nicholas Nickleby.
I remember it well. It was given on 2 different occasions, part 1, part 2, and wasn't it also offered both at on the same day? I think it was a Saturday, and you had time to have a little supper before the second half.
That's right. It ran 6 hours, and there were ways that you could mix and match to get yourself to both part 1, part 2, and a meal. But that was a cast of, as they say, thousands. It was an enormous cast, enormous undertaking.
Right.
Just the direction of it alone, I think Bob Davis had 2 other directors doing scenes simultaneously to get the whole thing to come together that way. And our President's College group studied the book, studied the show, and then attended it and had a wonderful time.
Well, it was an event. It really was. And that's the type of thing that we at the President's College love to, offer the West Hartford, the greater Hartford community. And my hats are off to the President's College as it has marched through time from the first days, was it like 12 years ago? Or
depending on how you count, 25 years.
Oh my God. Well, I got involved like 12 years ago.
Yeah. Humphrey taught the first Shakespeare class that is the origin of the President's College.
And I went to it. And was absolutely amazed, not only by Humphrey's presentation, but the knowledge of the attendees and their experiences, in seeing these various Shakespearean plays, all around the world, shall we say, really blew my mind. And, and I really learned a lot, not only from Humphrey, but from the attendees, from the students.
Yeah, the discussion, I think, is at such a high level and so enjoyable. We all long for really good conversation, and that's what the President's College can provide. And finally, as I think back on the year, I have to mention the Patricia Cremens Memorial Lecture, where Mayor Luke Bronin came out and told us about his adventures and hopes for the city of Hartford.
Yeah.
That was another, I think, very interesting afternoon, and he was very, very open. We're hoping to have him back. He said that he rarely has such a friendly audience.
Really? Well, it's wonderful that a lot of these programs are literally sold out. I remember trying to get into one of the programs, and I sort of had to take my hat off and beg, could you please find a seat for me? And it's wonderful, the response of the greater Hartford community to the offerings of the President's College.
We did close 6 classes because of filling them up this time.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It is.
And the next thing that we're working on, we have committees at the President's College, and the members who are active tend to join some of these planning committees. The symposium committee is meeting already to set up next September's symposium. This is our one-day back to university extravaganza event. And this time we're thinking of going with the theme, Politics and the Arts, because as you read the paper, you will remember that the city and the state, and pretty much the whole country is in this position, but Connecticut seems to be particularly bad, is running out of funds to support arts organizations.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping to have some leaders of some arts organizations and put together some panels and discussions. Perhaps President Walter Harrison will join us and talk a little bit about what our responsibility is for the arts and how we ought to try to fund them. And I've been thinking with some others about putting a philosophical framework around this. Jean-Jacques Rousseau once wrote a letter. He was one of the philosophers of the 18th century.
Yeah, I think, therefore I am.
That's Descartes,
Oh,
not Rousseau.
Rousseau was the wipe the slate clean.
That's
guy.
Descartes.
Wipe the same. Oh, really?
That's Descartes too. Yeah.
not Rousseau.
No. Rousseau, I think the first thing we remember about Rousseau is that he was quite a contrarian. And while the philosophers were dedicated to reason ruling everything, he saw the heart as being equally important with the head. And so was never quite as abstract or arrogant about the powers of the intellect. And so he was always sort of writing on the other side of the issue. But he wrote a letter to D'Alembert because D'Alembert proposed a theater for the city of Geneva. And Rousseau said, look, Paris can have a theater. Paris is a city not really dedicated to anything, a major capital, but it certainly likes its pleasures. It's appropriate for it to have a theater, and of course that goes into the funding and those kinds of questions.
Sure.
But Geneva is a city dedicated to the Protestant virtues. We're a kind of utopia. Why would we lower ourselves to spending money on vulgar entertainments?
Ooh.
And this goes back to Plato, who banished the poets from the Republic
Yes.
because they distract us from good living.
Yes.
And that just leads to a wonderful, I think, philosophical frame for a day of Symposium Day on the arts, what they bring to us. Are there critiques of them? I certainly am a believer in funding the arts with public money, but then how? So there's lots and lots of questions revolving around this, and we're hoping to make a day of that. Call it Politics in the Arts.
Don't some European countries invest very heavily in the arts?
Oh, I don't know the specifics of which and how much, but for sure,
They do.
yeah.
I'm
And
almost-
certainly France,
France and Italy.
Subsidizes,
and
yes.
Italy, you know,
yeah.
they realize the value of the arts not only to the people who visit, but to their own populace, you know, and they do, make part of their budget devoted to the arts.
Sure, and as you get into socialist countries that are more comfortable with government in all aspects of our lives than we
Yeah.
Americans tend to be, it's an easier sell to the people, I think, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So that's the symposium, still in the planning stages, more committee meetings coming up very soon. And then I want to talk for a little while, Bob, about next fall's schedule.
Okay.
Because we pretty much, hours ago, put the last dot on the schedule, and I'm very proud
it's
to say...
hot off the press, huh?
It's not even in the press yet, but it's about to go there.
Okay.
But if you look at the web page now, you will not see next fall's schedule just yet.
Okay.
The ink is drying, but it's been quite an adventure in getting this together. And have we got a schedule?
So you've heard it here first.
That's right. 12 lectures and about 25 courses are in place for next fall. And I'd really like to highlight and, in a sense, whet our fans' appetite for what's coming. They just have to survive the hot summer, and away we go. The bulletin will actually be published in June, and we're here in May. First of all, Humphrey will be teaching.
Good.
He's going to do a course, 10 sessions through the fall and the spring, each dedicated to a decade of the 16th century, Shakespeare's century.
Really?
So he's going to pick a major event or a major work of art or achievement, battle, and take us through the 16th century the way we've pretty much not been taken through before.
Isn't this 2016 the anniversary of Shakespeare's death, I believe?
The 16th.
I'm pretty sure it is, and a lot
That
of
makes sense.
venues like in England are celebrating it by making this the year of Shakespeare.
That makes sense. 1616 should be right.
Yeah, right. Okay. So
I'm going to teach as well. I just have to mention it. I'm going to do 6 sessions on the novels of Anne Tyler.
Really?
Anne Tyler was one of the finalists in the Man Booker Prize contest this year in England.
Okay.
She's now 73 years old and has written 20 novels and has quite a faithful following out there. I'm going to have to choose 6 that I think of as the richest and the best of those 20, and then do a session on each one.
I mean, can you indicate the names of any of these?
We will
novels?
definitely be looking at Dinner at the Homesick Restaurant, A Spool of Blue Thread,
Okay.
The Accidental Tourist, which was made into a popular film.
Of course.
Breathing Lessons, Earthly Possessions, those are among her best.
Those sound very interesting, yeah.
Ann Tyler is all about people who find their identity by means of their family and yet in opposition to their family. They have very mixed feelings about their parents, their siblings. Some run away, some grin and bear it, some completely distort who they are in resentment to their family, and you did this to me and that one did that to me.
Well, we all can identify with that.
It's a universal theme.
Of course, because we've all had these experiences, you know, vis-a-vis our siblings, our parents. You know, it's common to most human beings, you know.
I think for me, it was certainly the defining factor.
Yeah.
You know, who your family is who you are. And sometimes you completely get the story wrong.
Yeah.
And later in life, someone says, that's not what happened.
That's not the way it happened, Joe.
Yeah. So those will be fun. And of course, she's a very textured and technical artist with lots of things to look at that way. The way you would look at music or art, you know.
So now this course is being offered in the fall?
Yes.
In the fall.
Everything I'm talking about now is
fall.
highlighting this fall of
Okay.
25 courses and 12 lectures at Macaulay, Doncaster, and the Fellows Lectures on our campus.
Which, by the way, I've gone to a number of those, and they are really, first of all, very well attended.
We do tend to get a good crowd.
You really do, at both Doncaster and Macaulay. The professors or whoever is leading them are really top shelf. They are. They're very, very thorough and really give you an insight into their program, you know.
There's something great fun about just being in a room with someone who knows that much about anything.
Yeah, and
you just say, how does this person know this much?
And you look at yourself and say, how come I don't know any of this?
It is humbling. It really is humbling. So let me take the area of music for next fall for a little bit. Michael Lancaster will be back. Michael's teaching now in our Wild Auditorium, and he's doing a course now called Back to the Future about composers who pick a theme like the Passion of St. John and treat it in such different ways and yet echo one another across centuries. He'll be back to teach again, and I'm very, very happy about that. Michael, as you know, was the maestro of the Hartford Symphony for many years.
And what's his topic, or what is he going to address?
We have not pinned him down on the topic yet.
Okay.
We know that there is a class coming up.
And his classes are usually standing room only.
Yes, he
He's
tends
got a
to,
wonderful following with our members.
he tends to fill the room. He's a very, very charming and witty lecturer. Frank Rizzo, who has written for the New York Times, resides in New Haven, has written for the New Haven papers, is a known music critic, is going to repeat his course on the musical Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
We filled it this fall, and a lot of people said, hey, I didn't get in. And so he's going to do it again.
Repeated. Now, he's with the New York Times, I believe.
Yes, he has written for many years for the New York Times.
And would you believe the musical Hamilton was, I believe, written by a Wesleyan student?
That's right.
I have to put a plug in for my alma mater.
Yes, but that's correct. And this is a treat that I really didn't anticipate, but the Juilliard String Quartet is going to come to the University of Hartford, and they're going to spend an afternoon with the President's College talking about the dynamics of playing in a quartet.
Isn't that exciting? That
So
really is.
What do I do when I want you to step in and it's exactly your second, and how loud and how forceful? And
Yeah, right.
it's eye contact, it's body language. When you see these people moving together in a quartet, they're communicating.
Yep.
And they're going to actually sit, do a little demonstration, and then explain how they signal one another.
Wow. Now, when is this? Is also in the fall.
That will be in October.
Okay. Can I sign up right now?
Yes, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a special deal after our show
Such
today.
a deal. Okay.
And then in the realm of art, you know, we do a great deal with the graphic arts as well. Patrick McCackey's back.
Good. Yep.
And he's going to do something on the anxiety of American artists vis-a-vis the sophistication of Europe. Yes, it's
That's-
called
pretty deep as far as I can see.
He's calling it The Complex Fate.
Yeah.
And he's going to start with John Singer Sargent and end with Frank Stella. And Patrick McCackey, of course, is another one that fills the hall. People just hang on every word. He's an amazingly witty man.
He certainly is. He's had a lot of experience at the Wadsworth, right? And
Yes.
yeah, I've gone to a number of his lectures.
And the Yale Center for British Art. He was the director of that.
Which is really an interesting museum down in New Haven, right across from the Yale Museum.
Yeah, it's right across from the campus, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's where the Yale Art Museum is, right across from the British Art Museum.
So you can see a lot of art in one day.
You sure can, yeah.
And Douglas Hyland, who is the former director of the New Britain Museum of American Art, is teaching for us now and has enjoyed it very much and has agreed to come back next year as well. Now this will be in the spring, but I do want to mention him as I mentioned Patrick and other of our celebrity teachers. But Douglas will be back again next year. I'm not yet aware of which course he will choose to teach.
May I make a suggestion for him? I understand that the New Britain Museum has one of the largest collection of Hudson River School paintings. And I would really love to see him talk about that and concentrate on the Hudson River School.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, it would.
Let's make sure we pass that on.
Would you mind?
We've got some time. And David Simon, now that's the name you probably don't know. David was an art professor and had his career at Colby College in Maine.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And he's going to do a course for us on the architecture and functioning of the medieval monastery. Oh. As you know, these things were very important and social centers,
of course, yeah.
and they were in agriculture and industry and lots of things, as well as prayer and manuscripts.
Yep.
So he's going to talk a little bit about the complex role of the architecture of monasteries. And Michael Walsh, I've included film in this graphic arts piece, is going to do a course on films that feature Paris.
Paris?
Paris.
P-A-R-I-S.
R-I-S. Yes.
Paris.
Also known as Paris.
AKA Paris.
Right. But he's going to do films that use Paris as a setting and use the visual textures of Paris to tell a story.
Let's see if he talks about Last Tango in Paris.
I know the film.
I've just seen the film with
Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando. Yeah. What a film! I understand that film was banned by the Catholic Church.
Well, that would not be surprising at all.
Boy, if you see that movie, you can understand why.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I remember that terrible, terrible scene when they get drunk and dance in the tango hall. It's just so. I was depressed for a week the first time I saw that movie. We also have some good offerings in history and in politics and in that area that I'll mention a few of. The West Hartford group, the West Hartford Historical Society, Noah Webster House are going to do the history of West Hartford seen through photographs that were taken of its signage in 1966. The town decided that the signage was rather vulgar and they were overdoing it. And they went around, they commissioned a photographer, and so we have all these ads from the 1960s. And then from them you can analyze which businesses succeeded, which went away, and how West Hartford became the prosperous and successful small-town American model that it is now. That's, I think, a nice historical piece.
They do something almost every year at the President's College, do they not?
Well, this is certainly a repeat. They come back, yes. I think this is actually our third installment over a number of years in the West Hartford history, yes.
Yeah.
Gilda Aliota is going to do the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about who knows whether or not Merrick Garland will be on the court by then or not, or what will happen. But she's going to take interested people through what's going on at the Supreme Court during the election cycle.
That should be very interesting.
She has quite a following of people who just really enjoy
yeah.
Gilda's teaching.
Yeah, right.
So she's agreed to do that for us. Chris Doyle over at the Watkinson School is going to do Hotspots and Burning Issues, which is the Foreign Affairs Council here in Hartford. We join with them in doing a monthly group. They choose their topic you know, ISIS, Syria, et cetera, et cetera. They read, they get together and discuss.
And that's at night, as I remember, because I've gone
Yes.
to a number of those.
Yes, it's one of our few offerings at night because the
like
people who
6:30
work,
or something.
right, the people who work want to get there.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I was a member of the initial Foreign Affairs Council, and we used to read a couple of offerings from in Foreign Affairs magazine.
Right.
And then come together and discuss it. So this is really a tangential to that.
Yes, this is a continuation of that group. Yeah,
right.
yeah. We've also got a couple classes on religion. Everybody comes to class on religion already having thought a thought or two.
Yes.
We're going to repeat Jack Powell's course. Jack is a psychologist, and he's going to repeat his course by popular demand on a psychologist looks at religion. And that has led to some very lively discussions in that class. But he also provides, you know, the thoughts of major psychologists on the role of religion in life.
Yeah.
And Leslie Daymangla, who is a professor at Trinity, is going to offer the religions of the Caribbean, including the Jews of the Caribbean.
Oh, that's
I
a
did
very,
not-
very important segment of the Caribbean. You know, fleeing Spain in 1492. This is one of the places they came to, was the New World and South America and the Caribbean.
Well, he knows a good deal about that community.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating to find out that when Richard Freund did the Jews of China, I
Yeah.
said, what?
Yeah,
And of
right.
course, yes,
This
this
is the
is what
same
a
story.
diaspora will do.
That's where
Yeah,
they went from.
yeah.
Spain. They went all over the world. You know.
So I think that will be, so people who want to think a little bit about religion, we're going to provide that opportunity as well.
Okay.
And we do have some courses in science and engineering. The one that I want to mention, because we're running out of time, is that Fred Striefler is going to offer a course on comets. Their history, the mythology behind them, the superstition, and the contemporary theory, Bob, called panspermia, that Stephen Hawking is a subscriber to, that says that all life forms may have come to the planet Earth via comets from outer space.
Ho hum. Ho hum. Okay.
So I think maybe that would be a moment to sum up and stop. I think that's
Okay, you certainly, opened up my eyes to a lot of stuff that's coming, and I just have to take my hat off, if I had one, to you and to all of your planners over there, because it sounds to me like the fall of 2016 is going to be a wingding. It really is amazing. I've got to say, it's amazing what the President's College does for us 55, I got to admit that I'm over 55, the 55 plus people in Central Connecticut. And let's just mention once more.
good idea.
There's the telephone number. You want more information, 860-768-4495, or go on the web at hartford.edu/President's College, and you can get all this information as it's fed into our website. Joe, thank you very much.
My pleasure as
It's
always.
been a pleasure being with you. And so many of these courses, you better sign up fast, because the seats are rushing. It's before you're turned down, like I was a couple of times. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching, and we'll see you soon. Good night.